Okay everyone, so in this lesson, let's go and talk about the casing and spacing. It says here that we should be naming the folders and files completely in lowercase with no spaces. So many computers, particularly web servers, are case sensitive. So for example, if you put an image on your website here at the test site folder and a myimage.jpg, and then in a different file you try to invoke the image as test site myimage.jpg, it may not work. Some web servers and programming languages will not be handling spaces consistently. So if some of us use spaces in our file names, some systems may treat the file name as two file names. And some servers will be replacing the areas in your file names with a percentage and then a number 20. So we can see here that there's a description saying that the character code for spaces in URIs is this percentage 20. I actually did a query about this, and we found here, when I queried using this set of words, a complete guide to URL escape characters and the percent encoding here, saying that percent encoding, also known as URL encoding, is a method to encode information in a uniform resource identifier under certain circumstances. So I'll be leaving a link to this, everyone, so that you can read more about some of the guides for URL escape characters. And if we go down here, you would see that we have here the characters and we have the space here. And as we can see here, the escape character for the space is the percentage 20 as specified in the MDN documentation. So I will just be leaving the links here for further reading that you can do. So I will be including this in our resources. So some of the other keynotes that we should be aware of is that if we go and have experience from where some of the servers will be replacing the areas in our file names, it will be resulting in all your links being broken. So it's really better to separate words with dashes rather than underscores, such as the example here. And if we try to go back to our article here, you would see that good coding practice, and it says here it is good coding practice to avoid the need for URL escape characters. As a rule of thumb, avoid using the special characters above when formulating a URI string file name, and we should be using hyphen instead of underscores because not all search engines will be recognizing underscores, unlike with the hyphen as a space separator. So here it's giving us an advice that Google search engine treats a hyphen as a word separator but does not regard an underscore that way. So that's the same coding tip that was given in the other website. And we can see here it's best to get into the habit of writing your folder and file names lowercase with no spaces and with words separated by dashes. So, and it also gave us here a tip that at least until you know what you're doing. That way you'll bump into fewer problems later down the road. So I'm hoping you're getting used to now with our method of research and then reading, research and then reading, and then trying to understand the things that we are reading inside of the documentations coming from different resources to just verify and to look into some of the thoughts of some of the other developers. So now let's go and proceed with another section of the documentation here. Now we can see here that the sites that we will be building will have a common thing inside of our website project, and that's the index.html file, the images, the style files, and the script files. So we can go and organize our website project folder in this way. So we have the index.html, which is generally containing your homepage content. That is the text and the images that people see when they first go to your website. And using your text editor, create a new file called index.html and save it just inside your test site folder. So now we can see here that we do have the index.html inside of our HTML section 5 interactive content. So what we will be doing right now is to follow the documentation, and I'm going to close my code editor here so that we can do that. Now you can see here that I've changed the file directory folder and I use a hyphen instead of an underscore, but I still used the camel case method of naming the file folder here. You will be encountering camel case method of naming your files in JavaScript, so I just wanted to go and show you that there's a method like that. Okay, if you're wondering what camel case is all about, we can read more about it here in Wikipedia, and it says here camel case is often used as a naming convention in computer programming, and we have here some examples such as iPhone, JavaScript, and eBay. So I just wanted you to be aware of this. So I'll be leaving a link to the article here, so at least you can also read more about it. Now the next thing that we'll be doing here is to create the images folder. We actually already did this, and it should be containing all of the images that we use on our site. So we can now create a folder called images inside our test site folder. Or in our case, in our folder here. Or for your case, in the folder from where you have all of our files here. So now I'm just going to transfer all of the images files that we have here. You can also do this, guys. So at least we now have all of the images inside one folder. Now what I want to do next is to go and organize them based from how we use them in our project. So we have the float property exercises, and if you remember, we used these images here for the float property exercises. So I'm going to transfer this inside of that. And here we can just leave them here. This one, the one that I use for our introduction website or web page, landing page, our logo and my picture. So this can be your profile picture. Now we also have here styles folder and scripts folder. So styles folder will be containing the CSS code that we use to style our content. And we can create a styles folder. So let's implement that in our directory here. Let me just go back here. Now let's go create a new folder, and we can name this styles folder. And then we can see here that we have the styles.css. That's where we will be keeping the style sheet that we used before, the external style sheet. Now for the last tip here, we should be creating a scripts folder from where we can insert the JavaScript code, or we can go and store our JavaScript code that will be helping us create interactive functionality to our sites, such as buttons, load data when click. We won't be talking about scripts in this course, but I would want to go and create a script folder already, so at least you will be having a script folder that you can use for storing most of your script files in the near future. Now you would see here a note that on Windows computers you might have trouble seeing the file names because Windows has an option called hide extensions for known file types turned on by default. So you can turn this off by going to Windows Explorer, selecting the folder options, and then unchecking the hide extensions for known file types checkbox, then clicking OK. For more specific information covering your version of Windows, you can search it on the web. Now let's go and try to do that here in our View tab, and you will see that I'm using Windows 10, and I usually click on the file name extensions here and hidden items because this will also be important for security purposes. When you're downloading files in your Windows system, you will be able to see the integrity of the files that you have downloaded and whether it's the proper file extension. So I would suggest that you also do this for cybersecurity purposes. Okay, that will be all for this lesson, and for the next lesson we'll try to go and update some of the file paths that we have in each of our files here so that we can go and practice what we have learned when it comes to using the absolute and the relative paths. Okay, so thank you and see you on our next lesson.